All right, so once you have the fundamentals down, what you're gonna need from the kit is a stitch marker. Now this is optional, so it just makes life easier if you have a hard time figuring out which stitch is which. Any color that you wanna start off with, we're working from the center outwards, so the very center should be the color that you're starting with. And your hook. So getting started, make a magic ring and adjust the magic ring tail so that the ring is roughly the size of a quarter, then chain 2. I like to kind of start off making a slip knot. You kind of go through the same motions by making an X, and then I go through the underneath the top part, then on the left part of the X, I like to hook through, and then this is where we kind of pivot to making a magic ring. So instead of pulling all the way through like you would a slip knot, flip your hook upwards, and then pass over to this side of the yarn, slip underneath it, and then pull through the loop that's already on your hook. Once you've done that, wiggle your fingers out and you have a magic ring. So a magic ring is just like a foundation chain, except it's a circle and you're working in a circle instead of a straight line. So this is the magic ring. I'm gonna pull the tail out to the back. And then this tail is handy because you can adjust the size of the ring if you pull on it. So let's make it roughly the size of a quarter. And we can always adjust it so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then with your working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the yarn bobbin, we're going to assume the position. So this is how I like to hold tension. And it's best that you get familiar with this, just so you have proper good form, and it's a lot easier crocheting if you just nail this moving forward. And there are tons of YouTube videos on how to do this, but I like to hold my finger out and then grab it with these 3 fingers. Now the pinky is really the only one that's adjusting the tension. But this is just intuitive for me. So we're going to assume the position, and then from here, we're going to chain 2. So this V on our hook is not a chain, it's actually part of the slip knot that we make as part of the magic ring. So that doesn't count, and we're going to chain 2. So yarn over, meaning hook your hook clockwise, or yarn over clockwise, whichever one will get you to the same place. And then with the head of the hook facing you, pull through, and you have a chain. So let's do that one more time. Yarn over, pull through. Now that is chain 2. So in the instructions here, I put a stitch marker. So that lets you know it's the start of the round, and it's actually going to be our starting chain. And that gives height to our round 1. And so that kind of sets the precedence that we kind of want all of the double crochets we work into this magic ring to be the same height as the starting chain. So we want all of our following double crochets to kind of follow suit. So just refer to your starting chain for all of the double crochets, and it should kind of be the same height as that. Instead of putting a stitch marker there, I'm actually going to make a double crochet and put it in that one. But before we do that, let's move over. So we just made the starting chain, right? And so now we want to make 2 double crochet, working through both the magic ring and tail. And then we can chain 2 after. So what I mean by working through both the magic ring and tail, so we have the ring here, and then we have the tail behind it. So we're going to do a double crochet. First, we yarn over, go inside the loop, and we're going inside the loop that also has the tail on top of it. Yarn over, and then work your way under the loop. So you should have 3 loops on your hook. For double crochet, also, I like to scooch it back over here, just so if we're working up here, it's a different width than over here. So to maintain consistency, we want it to be consistent, so I always like to push my work back at the base. To continue with our double crochet, we yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now we have 2 loops remaining on our hook. Yarn over one last time, and pull through the remaining 2 loops. So that is our first double crochet. And then at this point, contrary to what I'm laying out in the instructions, I like to put it here because we're going to work a slip stitch into this double crochet. So I actually think it's more important to put the stitch in the double crochet than the starting chain. So boom, you should have one of these in your kit. So we just slipped one into that V that you can see here. That V corresponds with this double crochet that we just made. And as you can see, the height of that double crochet is roughly the same height as our starting chain. And you can see that our starting chain kind of looks like a double crochet because it's kind of meant to be a fake one. So we can make that first and then work our double crochets. It's kind of hard to start a double crochet from scratch without the starting chain. Repeating the steps, yarn over, work your way into the loop, and you should be working into and underneath both the magic yarn and the tail right next to it. So yarn over, go underneath both the tail and the magic ring, yarn over, and then back the way you came from, go back into the magic ring underneath both the tail and the magic ring. And then you should have 3 loops. And notice how they're all like kind of at different heights, different angles. You want the height of it to end up here. So no worries that it's, at a slant right now. We're gonna work our way up, meaning that we yarn over, go through 2 loops, and notice that we built a little bit of height right here. And then after doing the remaining yarn over, go through both loops. Our height matches the double crochet we made earlier and the starting chain. So as you build out the double crochet, you're slowly adding height to it by doing the yarn over and pulling through those loops. Now we have our starting chain and 2 double crochets. Now we can chain 2. So 1, yarn over, pull through, 2. And you're working kind of like floating away from this ring, so don't work it into the ring. Work it outside of the double crochet stitch you just made. So this is our first cluster. It doesn't look like it now, but this is going to be one of the 4 corners of the very center square. So we just completed our first corner. The second corner is very, very similar. We're going to do 3 double crochet into the magic ring and tail. Let's make sure that when we work our first double crochet, which is yarn over, we're going inside, yarn over, pull through, and you should have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through again, yarn over, pull through both loops. So this little gap is intentional. This is actually our corner. So now we're working this way, and then eventually we'll work that way, and then back around to meet our starting point. So we did one of our 3 crochets, double crochets, yarn over again, go into the magic ring and tail, pull up a loop back into the ring, yarn over, pull through both loops, the first 2 loops, yarn over again, and then pull through the remaining 2 loops. So that's 2 of 3. And then I kind of like to scooch these like to the right, just so that they're condensed. So these are just kind of like floating within the chain. You can kind of move them around. So I like to bunch them together so that they're neat and we are making them as similar in height as possible. So these 2 double crochets match the starting chain's height, and these 2 theoretically should match these because these are all coming out of the magic ring at the same height. We're making this a radius, if you will, from the magic ring over to the V's of the double crochets. So we want these heights to all be similar. And then we have one more double crochet, yarn over, go into our ring. Oops, sometimes you split the yarn, and that's okay, just kind of matters on what yarn you're using. Yarn over, pull through back into the loop, so you should have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And then we're gonna do a chain 2. 1, 2, and then that is our second cluster. Now we can pull the magic ring tail so that the magic ring is roughly the size of a dime, and then it should start looking more square. And then after that, we're gonna do 3 more double crochet. So going back to our work, this is the tail. I just kind of like to pull it out and just make sure it's always tucked behind the ring, just a preference. And then pull it so that it's roughly the size of a dime. We don't need that much space since we only have half of our round to go. So roughly the size of a dime, and then we're gonna continue with our 3 double crochet. Yarn over, work your way inside, yarn over, pull through, we have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. That's 1, yarn over, go inside both the tail and the ring, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And then I like to scooch it down. One more time, yarn over, go in the magic ring and tail, yarn over again, come back inside of it, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. That's 3, and our remaining step is to chain 2. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So everything right here is our third corner. So same thing with our last one. We're gonna do 3 more double crochet and then chain 2 just as we've been doing. And then as you can see, it's starting to look more square. And then I like to adjust it like even more just so I have enough space to work inside of here. So we're gonna do 3 double crochet, yarn over, into the ring, yarn over, come back out, yarn over, first 2, yarn over again, last 2. That's 1, 2 more, yarn over, go in, yarn over, come back out. We have 3, yarn over, first 2, yarn over, last 2. 1 more double crochet, yarn over, go in the ring, yarn over, come back out, yarn over, first 2, yarn over, last 2. And our last step here is to chain 2. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. So this is the last corner that we just completed. And now we want to pull the tail tight so that the magic ring disappears completely. I like to keep the tail hanging just in case we need to tighten the ring again at any point. So going into our work, I'm going to tug on this pretty tightly so that there is no visible hole in the middle. Next, we are going to slip a slip stitch into the first double crochet, not the starting chain. What I have here underneath my stitch marker, earlier I marked the first double crochet. Contrary to the instructions, I chose to do that because now we see the V that we need to work our slip stitch into easily. We don't need to get it confused with the starting chain, which is right here. We're working it into the first double crochet, which is here, and that is located right underneath the V that we indicated. I'm just going to take this out and mark that V with my thumb. So that V right here, we're working a slip stitch into that. Let's make sure that tension is tight. There's no big loop on our hook. Let's make it tight so that the chains we just did are snug up against the loop or against the hook. And we're gonna work a slip stitch. So what you do is you insert your hook through the V. You're gonna come in from the front, hook through both bars of the V, and then you should be exiting the back of the work. So on your hook, you should have the chain that was already on your hook, and then the V, which is now 2 bars on your hook. So you're gonna yarn over, pull through from the back to the front. So you have 2 loops now, and keep pulling through the remaining loop. And then that's a slip stitch. It connects our chain 2 to the start of our round without adding any height. So that's why a slip stitch is important in finishing off the round. And then pull tight with the working yarn just to make sure that there's no gaps. And then our final step here is to chain 1 and then cut our yarn, leaving about 6 inches. So to wrap up here, we just finished our slip stitch. We're going to chain 1, so yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to take some scissors and then cut off about 6 inches. I like to do maybe 4, and I'll tell you why in a second. And then pull through with your hook, and then pull tight with your fingers. So there is a little bump with the chain 1, but it's really not noticeable in the grand scheme of the activity. So you should have your center square. It should look like this with gaps in all 4 corners. These gaps are our chain 2s, and then each cluster has 3 double crochets, except our starting one, which has 2 double crochets and 1 starting chain. Awesome. So we finished round 1. Let's move on to round 2.